Right. Make sure we are live here. Okay, I believe we are good and we are going. Wonderful. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Back to School Q&A. My name is Gabby, joined here with two incredible leaders and experts from Boys Town, New England, and we're on here talking all things back to school. You know, it can be hard to believe summer has flown by and parents and kids are already getting back into the hustle and bustle of school. So to make your lives a little bit easier as we go through this transition, we are live here doing a Q&A, and I'll have our experts go ahead and introduce themselves. We have Ellie in the middle. Ellie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Gabby. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role at Boys Town, New England.
Yeah, so my name is Elia Scrogen. Like Gabby said, I'm the Senior Director of Program Operations over our community-based program. So I get the privilege to work with the people that are running and supporting the kids and families in their homes.
Wonderful. Welcome. And then we also have Sarah joining us here. Sarah, how are you?
I'm doing well, Gabby. Thank you.
Good. Tell us a little bit more about your background with Boys Town.
Yeah. So Sarah Galvan, I'm the executive director at Boys Town, New England. I've been with the agency for a little over 18 years, been supporting in this role for the last 5, and I'm excited to be here today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining. And as we go through our discussion here related to back to school and you're watching live, if you have any questions for Sarah or Ellie, go ahead and like this video and leave them in the comments. And if you happen to be catching this live later on, maybe after you're done working for the day or later this week, we will still happily take any questions that you have. So go ahead and leave them in the comments or direct message our page, and I will make sure to route those questions to our experts here. Okay, so after excuse me, a summer of fun and relaxation, getting kids back to a school routine can sometimes be challenging for parents. So Ellie and Sarah, how do we get our child moving and getting ready for school in the morning?
It's a great question. And as a parent of 3 who we just started school this week, I am in that exact struggle right now. And, some of the things that we and I do personally and that we promote here at Boys Town are very simple things to be able to get your kids up and going and moving into the school bus or the school on time. One of the most critical things, and you'll hear this throughout the course of our answers today around getting kids going, is providing and establishing an effective routine. Kids really thrive off of knowing what to expect and being able to know that after we get up, we brush our teeth, we eat breakfast, we get to the school bus, and what is that established routine for them? So you'll hear that throughout, is really creating an established routine. Some of the things that have been lifesavers for me and my family is really preparing the night before. So packing school lunches, getting backpacks packed the night before, getting all of the clothes set out the night before. The morning can be really busy. There's a lot of things. Most parents are getting themselves ready for work and the work day, as well as trying to get their kids out the door. And so the more you can prep the night before, the smoother your morning is going to be for school, getting the kids out of the school or out of your home. And then one other thing that is really critical is for child development, getting kids to bed on time, making sure that they're getting the amount of sleep that is age appropriate so that when they have to wake up to start getting into that routine, to start getting out the door to the school, they are going out on a well-rested night of sleep. So getting your kids to bed on time, establishing that routine at night, and getting things done the night before, I think is what has been a huge help for me and my family. I know could help others.
Definitely. Ellie, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love, Sarah and I were talking about, I actually have a 5-year-old, and my child it started school last week for the very first time. And I had to do a lot of positive reinforcement. So really praising my son. And it's a lot of stuff that we teach in our, at Boys Town in our programs, especially in the home-based programs, really supporting our families through these different transitions. It was actually really fun to be able to now translate it to my own life and really use a lot of praise and reward my son when he was doing really well, following up with these routines that we had to set up ahead of time that he has never done before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. And that's one of the great things of having these experts on is, we're not only experts with the kids that we work with at Boys Town, but also applying it to our own families. And we're going to be joined also by Marcy. She unfortunately is sick and wasn't able to join, but, is another team member at Boys Town New England who surely applies, all of these learnings to our own families and takeaways that we talk about and like to educate parents and community members on. Just know that we are also practicing it within our own homes. So wonderful. The next question we have here are, what are some other good habits that kids can keep throughout the school year to promote growth and success?
Yeah, Sarah started it with those habits. So she talked about a lot of routines, some things that we want to put in place from the very beginning. I want to reiterate that sleep schedule. I think especially in the beginning, and then as we get to teenage years, in the beginning, it's really important that we start teaching our kids very early on what that having a consistent sleep schedule is, the importance, and educating them on having those long hours for them to sleep and maybe having some uninterrupted sleep as well is really important, but also keeping that routine, not just during the school days, but also on the weekends. I know there's a lot of parents that we work with the kids want to now get up and they're going to sleep a lot later, maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. That then starts to offset kind of that sleep cycle for them. And it makes it harder, specifically on Mondays and Tuesdays in the week. And we see a lot of that in our schools. And then also having, homework routine, making sure that we have a set schedule, a specific time, a place, a very organized place in which our kids can have some good homework routines, and see homework as a positive transition from school and home. And then also lastly, having a positive attitude as a parent. I know sometimes we have very busy lives. I work with a lot of families. I myself have 2 kids. Sarah mentioned she has 3. But so we get really busy throughout the day, and it's really hard to be consistent, but really working on having that positive attitude, even with our kids, praising them throughout, really encouraging them, especially if they have challenges, and talking to them about problem solving will really help them in the future and set some really good habits for them.
Definitely. The next one is always a hot topic, I think, year round, but especially when it comes to back to school, and that is going to be technology use. So how can we manage our child's technology use during the school year?
Yeah, this is a great question and comes up a lot with our families. Obviously, technology is huge right now. Most kids have cell phones, most kids have iPads. They have information and access to information very easily. And most kids really enjoy that access and being able to be on their phone or their technology. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I give parents is really being clear with your expectations. What are your family rules around technology? So if your family expectations are that you have X amount of hours a day, or these are the set hours that you have, as a parent, stick to those expectations. Again, children thrive off of knowing what to expect. So whether that's through routine or whether that's through family rules and expectations, and technology really fits in that. So if the expectation for your family is there's no technology at the dinner table, then there's no technology at the dinner table, and set that. And kids will fall within what the parents' guidelines are. Some other things that are really important is, and I briefly talked about this, is really setting a technology schedule. So again, allowing for your kids to be able to engage in technology if that's something that's motivating to them, but making sure that it fits within your family dynamic and your schedules. So if the homework routine has to come before the technology is accessed, then that is something that, as again, you're communicating with your kids, you're setting that expectation, they're getting their homework done, and then they're able to watch a show or get on their phone, call their friends, whatever that may look like for the dynamic of your family.
Yeah. And going back to what we were just talking about with sleep and setting those boundaries with technology, that goes right into bedtime, especially for those older kids who, want to stay up late. They've got all their homework done and that's good. And now they're laying in bed and they just want to be on TikTok. How can we, help those older kids in setting boundaries with that, not having phones in the bedroom at all, maybe charging them in another room, or what would you recommend to help those teens especially?
Ellie, do you want to take this?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, because we do get a lot of that, especially in the schools that we work with, the families that we work with in our school age programs. The teenagers, throw our parents for a loop. But Sarah talked about being consistent, setting those rules, and then making sure we're following up on them. And one of the biggest things that I learned in our Common Sense Parenting program, we recently did a parent cafe at one of our middle schools, and we really focus on having a tech-free bedroom. I know that probably is unseen right now. It's probably crazy with our kids, but really setting that expectation and keeping electronics out of the bedroom really coincides with the research out there around our children. If they're observing or seeing technology before going to sleep, that can affect their sleep pattern or make them go to sleep a little later. So making sure that we have kind of a room or a place in which they can use their technology, setting those rules and following through with those expectations are really important. And setting a consistent bedtime or a time in which now technology is off. So that if bedtime, because they are teenagers, is maybe 10 o'clock, maybe we're setting things off at 9 p.m. and we're starting our nighttime routine. And now we're going into this tech-free room so that our bodies can now adjust to that transition from being on screens all day to now going into sleep mode. And then lastly, I said lead by example. We talk about that in all of our programs. We say parents are experts in their kids, but they also have to lead by example. Our kids are watching us all the time. And if I'm bringing my cell phone in and I'm on TikTok at 10, 11 o'clock at night, or Instagram or Facebook, it makes it a little harder for me to set those expectations and also be consistent with my child. So let's lead by setting those good habits and expectations with our kids so that they can see that in us as well, and that when we're trying to be consistent, they can follow through on it.
Yes, definitely. As a family, we all plug our phones in the kitchen and then head upstairs to bed, and we're all doing it together. So it's not, hey, Mom, you're telling me I can't be on my phone, but I just walked in your room and I saw you on yours. So yes, definitely leading by example is wonderful. Okay, so going back to homework, what are some ways that parents can avoid the drama of getting homework done? And maybe even if there isn't drama around it, maybe it's, kids come home from school. Is there like a good tempo? Should we give them like an hour or two of relax and playtime and then do homework before dinner? Or, what would you recommend with that?
Yeah, great question. And I think this really is individualized based on your child's need. I have 2 school age children right now, and my older one's need is different than my middle one's. And so really understanding what your child needs. Do they need to get off the school bus and decompress from the day and take a couple of hours to get a snack and go play and run around and do something outside of the academic learning? Or are they a child who thrives off of coming right home, getting it done, setting it up, and really kind of powering through, and then having the rest of the night to relax? So I would encourage parents to tune in to what your child thrives off of, and even have that conversation with them. Children are really tuned into what their bodies needs and what their mind needs. So have that conversation. Couple of other tips is really, again, setting that homework schedule, whatever that looks like for your individual child, having that time where it is set aside. I have a second grader right now, and we are getting more homework this year than we ever have in the past. And so we are learning that we have to set aside time so that it doesn't become 8:30 at night and we haven't done her reading assignment. So really setting that schedule. And having a place for your child to be able to do their homework, setting a designated spot where they can do their homework, where it's quiet. Again, my second grader wants to do her homework in the loud living room where her other little siblings are playing, and that's not working well for her because she can't focus. So being able to set more of a designated spot. And then depending on your child, really breaking down that homework to be able to tackle what makes sense for them. A lot of children thrive off of having individual tasks that they can accomplish and feel accomplished in, rather than looking at the scope of, oh my gosh, I have 2 hours worth of homework. Well, let's get through the math, let's get through the reading, and breaking it down and helping them navigate through that. And then if your child is at an age where they can plan and get more organized, some other tips and tricks are get a planner, have them really organize their time so that they can, understand and know how much homework they have and how much time they need to set aside to be able to complete that homework.
Yeah, definitely. Making it feel less overwhelming for sure,
Yes.
especially coming off a full day of school. And then, for those older kids, when homework does start to kind of pile up of, oh my goodness, I just want a break, but I have to get this done, and, working together. Definitely.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we just have a few more questions on our list for Ellie and Sarah. So if you're watching live and you have a question related to back to school, please leave it in the comment section, and make sure you like this video so we can get it in front of more people and get the information to people who would find it useful during this season. So what can we do if, we as parents are noticing that maybe our child isn't super on fire about back to school and aren't so excited about all the learning opportunities to be had, and maybe they are struggling in school?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because every child is different and every school is different, and every environment is different. So really having your child go in is kind of something that we expect, and we want them to be happy and enjoy and love to learn. But there are times where that stuff happens. My child, who I was telling actually Marcy this week about my child going back to school, he's still crying every day in the morning before going into kindergarten. And that's really tough. But I've been able to use some of the strategies that we provide to our families. And first of all, we really want to look at what is the root cause of this? What are they feeling? What are they identifying? Do they even understand, what is going on in them that is giving them that lack of desire to learn? Is it a particular subject? Is it a particular time of day? Is it something that is having them feel overwhelmed or stressed out? These are some of the questions that we want to ask. And are there any social issues going on within school? One of the questions that I've asked every day since I started, or my son has started school, is, have you made any friends today? How does that look like? What are your friends' names? Are you making a social connection with anyone at the school? Because he is having such a hard time transitioning from being at home to now going to school. And then we also talk about, connecting learning to interests. I know my son loves cars just like his dad. And I've tried. So he finally brought this activity from school, which was awesome. I connected it to cars and he got really excited about that. So really working on making that connection between what they're learning and maybe some of the interests that they have is good, and will help that child have a desire to learn more. And then also involving them in some decisions. Sometimes our kids, we talk talk a lot about maybe the why behind why our kids are feeling certain ways, why their behaviors here at Boys Town. So we want to look at ways in which they can control some of their learning. And if that's possible, I know sometimes that is possible in middle school and high school, not as much in elementary school, but really helping them be involved in some of those decisions. And if we can't do it at school, maybe at home, we can identify, like Sarah said, what is a good time for them to do that homework, or a good place in which they can do that homework, or, how do we connect and make that more desirable for them and giving them a little bit more control. And then lastly, after we've tried kind of all these different strategies, really at the end of the day, is this something that we now maybe might need to seek some support or professional help on? And am I going back to the school and have a conversation with the teacher, with a principal, with someone that's going to be a support for my child? Or do I need to also look out maybe some outside support? Because could this be a learning disability or something like that now my child needs some additional support in?
Yes. And definitely, if you need that support, Boys Town New England, we have so many services that can get you looped in and get that support they need. Because a lot of parents, you might not know what help you need until you need it. So we are definitely here. And this Q&A is just one example of ways that we want to help. So if you're watching this and maybe back to school season hasn't been as great as you had hoped for you or your child, just know that we are here and definitely willing to help you overcome whatever the challenge is. So wonderful. You mentioned, Ellie, briefly asking your son, are you making friends, and talking a little bit about that social connection. So how can we help our kids to not just make friends, but, keep those genuine friendships as the school year progresses?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned as a parent is that our kids are constantly learning. You have to think that they don't know how to do many of the things, and we are, as their parents, there to teach them. And so one of the things that we really emphasize here at Boys Town is social skills. What does that look like? That means being able to be in an environment where you are acting in a pro-social way. So you're following instructions, you're making friends, you're saying okay, you're doing all of those things. So as parents, being able to teach and practice those social skills that are going to allow for them to be in the classroom and to have opportunities to make friends. I think one of the biggest things for me as well is really identifying and helping your children identify what are those friendship qualities that you want within friends. What do we value as a family? What do you value as an individual? And then looking and seeking and helping them identify that, so that then when they get in the school environment, they know that they don't want to be friends with the kid who's pushing another kid on the playground, because that's not a value that they have. And so they're staying clear from that kid, and they're going to the kid who's helping the other kid get off the slide because they got scared it was too high, right? And so really being able to help and have those conversations with our kids around what are those friendship qualities that we value within themselves and then within our family. And then another really big one that we teach is, that conflict resolution. There's going to be conflict no matter what school you go to and no matter what, classroom you're in. And being able to teach your kids, how do you identify that conflict and be able to work through that conflict with friends or conflict with people that are, a peer of yours, so that we are really proactively teaching our kids these skills, so that they're more successful when they are interacting and socializing with their friend peer group.
Yes, well said. And the best way to find a friend is to be a friend is, the big lesson there. So, for those children who maybe, find themselves in those situations where maybe it's not, physical bullying, it can also be on social media or, verbally over text message. There are so many ways now that children unfortunately experience bullying. What advice and wisdom do you have to share with parents who maybe their child is in that situation?
Yeah, this is a big topic of discussion within schools, and we really work, and we actually got to do some really awesome bullying prevention parent cafes at some middle and high schools recently, and some of the things that we focus on is really helping parents identify changes in behavior. We think that's a really big one. If your child was excited to be in school, really liked going to school, was making some friends, and now they're feeling anxious or maybe aggressive, or they're having this reluctance to go to school, and they're frequently maybe complaining about feeling sick. Those are things that you really want to look out for as a parent. And again, sometimes we get it. It's busy and sometimes we're just moving and going, but taking that one-on-one time with each child and having an opportunity to really sit down and identify, because we are the experts of our kids. We know our kids the most. And you can tell when our child is off. So really looking at that. Also, if your child is coming home with some unexplained injuries, or there's some changes in eating habits, in their sleeping habits, like you said, Gabby, bullying can come in different forms, and in that could be for different things. So making sure that you are identifying if there are some of those changes academically also. I think one of the biggest things for us to combat that is really looking at direct communication, and having a really good, having our children understand what is bullying, what does bullying look like, and really having that conversation and knowing what your district's or your school's bullying policy is, so that if there is a concern or something that is happening and your child is feeling withdrawn or having some emotional distress, or has blatantly told us that they're being bullied, we know what our next steps are, and we can support them in that. And also, again, we talk a lot about those social skills. Seeking help is a really big one, and asking for help and support is a big one. So teaching our kids that proactively is really important.
Yeah. And how can we seek help for bullying? What are the steps for that, or the resources?
Yeah, I think there's many resources. Some of the strategies from a parent level that I think are important to discuss is really listening and validating what your child is saying. And I fall short in this sometimes because my life is so busy and work is busy, but taking that opportunity to really sit down with your child and just listen without judgment, listen without interrupting, and really get an understanding. And I encourage parents from a very young age to do this with their children so they feel comfortable. I tell my kids all the time, it is your right to feel safe wherever you're at. And if you're not feeling safe where you're at, speak up. Let's talk. Let's figure out what's happening. And then in terms of resources, being able to feel empowered, not only the parent, but the child, really empowering your child to be able to come to you as a parent, to be able to come to school authorities, to be able to say that I don't feel safe here, and here is why, and really looping in those school authorities and the parents, so that we can provide and look at what are the resources within your jurisdiction or within your school community.
Wonderful. Well, this has been a wonderful chat. I wanted to ask you both if there's anything else that you would like to share related to back to school before we wrap up.
I think the last thing that I want to say is parenting is tough, even on a good day. And so parents, stay strong. It's a hard week here in New England. We're all back to school with new routines. Set those expectations, put those routines in place, and your family's going to thrive. Reach out if you have any additional questions or need any additional support from Boys Town New England.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Anything to add, Ellie?
No, and take this moment to love it all. I think, especially with the younger ones and the smaller ones. I know we have, personally, I have a nephew that went to high school for the first time. He's in 9th grade, and you don't realize how time flies by and how quickly now he's in this 9th grade and is in this new chapter in his life. So I want to encourage the families to really take the moment and appreciate where they're at right now, and look into resources that are going to help you and your child be successful, because it is a long journey and we're all in this together. But Boys Town's here to help if you need that support.
Yes, we are. And you can find all the information. I'll make sure to link it on this video, boystown.org/New England. We also have a free parenting website, full library of parenting content related to homework, sleep, relationships, friendships, a lot of what we talked about today. So that's parenting.org. And I'll leave some of those resources in the comments of this video. Make sure you like it and share it, and keep us posted on how your back to school season goes. And as Sarah and Ellie said, reach out if you need any help. Thank you so much for watching today, and we will catch you on our next live stream. Bye-bye.